Welcome to a Fifth of Jack Gaming, where it's March. And for the theme today, well, the theme for the entire month is Critical Role. So we're going to call this our little Critmas. It's a way that we're going to go over with it. So we're going to end up having reviews that's going to be going over Vox Machina, the Library Edition, and also the Mighty Nine Library Edition as well. But it's Friday, so we're not going to worry about comics today. We're going to worry about a little bit of a treasure trove of a commander deck, a little trinket of our appreciation. Before we end up diving too far into that pool, I want to thank the folks over at Moxfield to be able to use their site to show you this handy dandy deck. Without further ado, let's run our way over to Moxfield to be able to show you what we have worked up for you. Alright, we're over at Moxfield. And if you follow Critical Role, specifically their first campaign, you had Vexalia, who had a companion of Trinket. What was Trinket? A bear. It's well documented it was a he, but hey, we're taking liberty of what we end up going with. So, our little Trinket is going to be Descana, the Rage Mother. A Naya commander, that means it has the color identity of red, green, and white. So all the cards in this deck is going to be either red, green, or white, or any kind of mix of the combos for that. Also, with this deck, I kind of want to make it a living deck, so each week I want to be changing things until the final week that we end up going with it. So the last Friday of this month will end up being a deep dive into specific synergies of the deck of what we end up working. And if there's any suggestions that you'll end up having with it, put it down in the comments down below and we'll give it a shot. Now, let's go over and break down our little trinket here. When it enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card for each creature that has a base power and toughness of a 2/2. And then whenever a creature you control with a base power or toughness of a 2/2 attacks, it gets +3/+3 until end of turn. So the big joke with that is that you can have bears because they cost 2 for a 2/2. Well, that's awesome. Let's break down the decks. For right now, let's disable the tags that we have. Let's go over and see how much of everything that we end up having. This deck contains 1 Planeswalker, 40 creatures, 7 sorceries, 37 lands, 8 instances, 2 artifacts, and 4 enchantments. Don't worry about the sideboard. That's something that I'm thinking that we're going to end up working into the deck. With that general gist, let's turn back on the tags and see what we end up having. So before we go down certain synergies, we're going to hit the stuff that does not have a little area that we ended up making for it. In the untagged creatures, we have a Bane of Progress, Quasi Pride Mage, Sovereign Attack All, and Zealous Conscripts. Stay tuned until a little later in the deck tech where this has some nice synergy with the deck itself. Some untagged lands that we have is Canopy Vista, Cinderglade, Command Tower, Copperline Gorge, Exotic Orchard, Tenon Forest, a Game Trail, Cassock Wolf Run, nice little surprise trample, 4 Mountains, Path to Ancestry, 7 Plains, a Relic Warrior Tower, Rockfell Val, and a Sun Petal Grove. The final untagged card that we have is a sorcery, which is Fade from History. And then I think that we might be a little bit heavy in this department, but we have a bunch of tutors that's in the deck. We have a Wardly Tutor, Tooth and Nail, which is also a way that we can end up bringing creatures in there if we pay 2 extra. Fauna Shaman, and Edric Evolution. Then we have some good old token makers with Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, Feldar Retreat, Goro, Disciple of Ruste. The way that it makes the token is a big old dragon. We have some Grisly Fate, Spawn Wraith, and Words of Wildling. So this is going to be a way that we can prevent us drawing out our entire deck. Because instead of drawing a card, we can pay 1 and make a 2/2 bear. That's right, we're staying in the bear theme. We'll pass the shenanigans for right now. We'll go over to the removal, which the only removal we have is Beast Within. The reason we ended up going with that selection is because we have a copy that we can end up having a bear in the artwork. I know it sounds silly, but hey, that's what we're going to go with. Our ramp package includes Bravo Familiar, but it also has the sorcery we can end up milling 7 cards, and we put a creature card enchantment, or a land card from among them milled onto the battlefield. Cultivate, Goblin Acromancer, Kadama's Reach, Land War Visionary, and Solemn Soliloquy, or aka Sad Robot. In the evasion department, we have Rogue's Passage. And to be able to play all of these different cards, we have ways to be able to filter for different lands, or look for different lands with Kabari Courtyard, Evolving Wild, and Fable Passage. We have stuff that's in the flex roll with Acidic Slime and Titania's Command. And then we can end up blanking stuff out with Cloud Shift, Ephemerate, and the Eternal Wanderer. The big thing about this deck is that it's worried about the base tower toughness of being a 2-2. So we can end up actually boosting stuff with +1/+1, or even with +1/+1 counters. So we're not so worried about that. So we have like Beastmaster's Ascension. Whenever it has 7 quest counters, creatures get +5/+5. Sky Hunter Strike Force, which gives melee. Ultramarines Honor Guard, which has this little squad mechanic where we can pay 2 extra, but it gives up +1/+1 to other creatures. And the nice little combo that we have here. This gives a +1/+1, which is nice, but it's not the end of the world here. Or whenever one of our creatures come into play, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's a good way of trying to burn down your opponents. And we have many different ways to make creatures. Our draw field that we have, Archivist of Akhma, Beast Whisperer, and pseudo end draw with Tenet, Skarner of the Sun, and Cathril, the Blade Reforge. Alright, okay. Now you're wondering where the bears are coming into play. We have Adaptive Automaton, which we can make it into a bear. Ash Coat Bear. Then we have Druid's Familiar, and regular Core Hearts, Mother Bear, Turin Mauler, Uvenwald Bear, and Wilson Refined Grizzly. Oh, we cannot forget our queen with Ayula, Queen Among Bears. Our commander for Bear Force 1, so we already have 1 bear deck, so now we have 2. But she's a menace that comes over with it. Target bear you control could end up fighting another creature that you don't control, or we could put 2 +1/+1 counters on a target bear. So yes, we want to have more bears, so we have to jump over to the shenanigans, where we can end up we make everything into a bear with Mask Wood Nexus. It's an artifact where creature types become every creature type, so it becomes a bear among everything else. But that counts for the stuff that's on the board. That also counts for the stuff that's in the library that isn't yet played, and all that. Plus, it has the ability where we can pay 3, tap it, and create a blue shapeshifter, which could be create a bear, who is a 2/2. Other shenanigans that we have is Archetype of Courage. All of our creatures gain first strike, and our opponent's creatures can't have first strike. So it's a nice defensive way to be able to attack with it, or leave it back on defense. Another shenanigan way that we have is Angel's Grace, where it has split second, so it can't be responded or anything like that. Plus, it also has it where we can't lose the game, but our opponents can't win the game. So yeah, we covered that, but we kind of draw some hate with our hate bears that we have in the deck, with Collector Oof being a hate bear for our artifacts, Containment Priest being a hate bear for stuff coming out of the library, Guarantee for anything that costs 4 or greater, that's a non-creature spell, or non-creature spells that have X in the mana cost. Magnus of the Moon is non-basic land hate. Magahorn is a destroy an artifact, and then makes all the artifacts that our opponents control comes into play tapped. Sanctum Playlate is a card that makes it a certain cost of a non-creature spell can't be played. And finally, Scavenging Ooze is our good old graveyard hate. So with having so much hate in there, we gotta have some kind of protection. Vexing Session makes a target spell can't be countered by spells or abilities. Calamity's Wake is another way we can make players not be able to cast non-creature spells. Grand Abolisher makes them that they can't activate and do stuff during our turn. So is it with Kazul. Marin Crusader has a nice good old protection from green and black, which is more common is with the green decks, and has double strike. And then we can silence a target player. Or if we want to just run away, we could play Teferi's Protection. So our final area that we haven't covered yet is our copy. We have Helm of the Host, which allows us to be able to copy a creature that it's equipped to. But it makes if you have a legendary creature, it makes a non-legendary copy of that creature. So that comes down to the final card that we have in the deck. Kiki-Jiki, aka Combo Creature Craziness King. That's right, we got the Combo King right over here. Combos with Helm of the Host because you make another copy of Kiki-Jiki, tap it, untap it, copy, and keep on going. And it also works with Zealous Conscripts, where we can tap Kiki-Jiki, make a copy of Zealous Conscripts, which Zealous Conscripts makes us untap Kiki-Jiki, and then we can tap it again, keep on going back and forth. So we can make a bazillion 2/2 Kiki-Jikis, or we could just end up burning out our opponents with this War Leader's Call. Either way, we have a nice infinite combo and we can end up working with the deck. So with the covering of the deck, let's switch it back over to the main cam and give our final thoughts of the deck. Alright, so this is a good deck that ends up going heavily into anti-spell combos, with being able to silence people and making it so they can't end up comboing off. In my meta, that's kind of gotten to be a little bit heavier, so this is going to be a good measuring stick that comes with it. But this is also a strong deck because most of the creatures in this deck are 2/2s. And the stuff that we can end up making is 2/2s. So it's a nice strong way that we can end up going with it. We really dived into the way that we can end up drawing a bunch of cards with our commander and having that nice little buff as well. What did you think of the deck? And like I said, what would you like to add to this deck? Let us know down in the comments down below. We're going to keep on trying to change this up, and we'll go over what changes we have each Friday of this month. We're hoping to keeping this nice little trinket and growing it out to be a nice little treasure trove that we can always come to. Do I dare try to say it? Is it Friday yet? Nah, that doesn't work as well. I want to thank you for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.